Hi, and welcome to this presentation where we'll be exploring the impact of emotion on memory and how advertisers can leverage psychological biases like the peak end rule to maximize the chance of their video ads being remembered. So, what is the peak end rule? Coined by the Nobel Prize-winning behavioral psychologist Daniel Kahneman, the theory behind the peak end rule is that we judge experiences, whether they're positive or negative, based on how we feel at their peak and at their end, instead of judging the experience as a whole. Think about a trip to a restaurant. If your starter is late and the main dish is smaller than expected, this will matter less to us in hindsight if the dessert is amazing and the manager provides a complimentary drink on the house. The reason for this is because our brains don't work like video cameras. We simply do not have the cognitive capacity to remember everything. Instead, we use the peak and the end of an experience as a proxy for how we felt about the whole experience, and we forget the rest. We prioritize our memories by creating highlights, and those highlights are often based on our emotions at the time. And this has huge implications for advertisers. Emotions are so important to advertising because we feel first and think second. Our buying behavior is propelled by more than the logical distinctions we draw between brands. This has been proven time and time again, most notably in the work of Peter Field and Les Binet. In their report titled The Long and Short of It, Balancing Short and Long-Term Marketing Strategies, they found that campaigns that used an emotional strategy compared to a rational strategy were more effective at improving both business and brand effects, particularly over a longer term. At Unruly, we wanted to understand whether advertisers could use the peak end rule as a way to improve the chances of their video ads being remembered. To do so, we worked with Richard Schotten, the founder of Asteriton, a behavioral science consultancy, and Affectiva, a facial recognition company, to understand whether or not videos which featured a peak in emotion were more memorable than videos without a peak, as per the peak end rule theory. Using Affectiva, we were able to track the emotions felt by respondents as they watched videos based on changes to their facial expressions in real time. The videos were then categorized according to three specific groups: videos without emotional peaks, videos with multiple emotional peaks throughout, and videos where the highest emotional peak occurs at the end. We then conducted a recall and recognition survey within a week of exposure to compare the difference between the three types of video. In the recall part of the survey, we showed respondents images from each video and asked them which ones they remembered seeing. In one of the most important findings, we found that respondents were significantly better at recognizing the videos if that video provoked an emotional peak. This not only has implications for video advertising, but it also highlights the potential value of using display formats as a way to amplify the awareness of a video campaign. Going beyond recognition, the same respondents were also asked which brand each video was for, and again, recall was significantly higher in the adverts which produced moments of emotional intensity. Further analysis showed that the success of the ads was not just down to the sheer amount of emotion produced, but whether the brand was present during those peak moments. These results echo research from the Ehrenberg-Bass Institute, which saw that only 16% of TV ads were recognized and attributed to the correct brand, representing potential 84% of wastage. We also wanted to understand whether or not respondents were able to recall any specific creative details for the video adverts. As expected, we saw that recall did start to decay immediately following exposure. However, the decay was significantly weaker for videos which featured an emotional peak. We also found that whilst existing levels of brand awareness was important for brand recall, it was less so for creative recall. This emphasizes the need for both distinctive branding and peak emotional moments to maximize the chances of memorability. Even after explicitly reminding the respondents of the videos they had been shown and the brands for those videos, the videos which featured moments of peak emotion were still significantly more memorable than those without. Simply put, the more mental resources we devote to a video, the more likely we are able to remember it. In other words, if we are strongly involved with something because it appeals to us emotionally, then we pay closer attention and we're more likely to remember it. Part of the reason for this is because our brains are hardwired to respond to narrative structure, as stories are often the most effective way to provoke an emotional response. As shown throughout this presentation, advertisers can improve their chance of creating something memorable by shaping their video content to produce moments of intense emotion that exploits the memory bias that all humans are guilty of. As Richard Shotton said, if marketers want to create the most memorable customer experiences or ads, then these findings are relevant. When we analysed the peak videos further using Affectiva's facial coding technology, we found that respondents were more likely to be either smiling or surprised during their moments of peak emotion. However, we wanted to know what emotions contributed to these outward displays of emotion, as this would give us a greater understanding of how to create those emotional peaks. By exploring the relationship between implicit facial coding measurements and our own explicit EQ emotional survey data, we found that respondents who smiled or were surprised throughout a video were significantly more likely to tell us that they felt emotions such as hilarity, amazement, and happiness to an intense degree. This means that they would rate the intensity of their emotions as either a 9 or 10 on a 1 to 10 scale. Using this information, we can start to predict the chances of a video being remembered based on the level of emotional response registered. As with Kahneman's experiment, the duration of the experience was also a factor. The ads with multiple peaks were between 1 to 2 minutes in length, while the ads where the peak came at the end clocked in at a traditional 30 seconds. And yet, the strong response across both sets of ads shows that regardless of the duration, as long as the experience features a peak moment of emotion, the chances of it being remembered positively improves. This just goes to show that short ads can be just as effective as longer ads at building memory structures based on the location of the emotional peak. It is possible to apply these learnings to your video by using Unruly EQ, a content testing tool with dual process theory in mind. Using a panel of 500 respondents in an online testing environment, we measure people's conscious and unconscious responses to video content using both facial coding and survey responses. Doing so allows us to identify both the strength and location of a video's peak emotion moment. This can not only be used as a predictor of memorability, but also as a way to produce more effective digital video content through the use of the Unruly edit suite. By combining content testing with creative editing, it is possible to produce cut-down versions of your videos which focus on the emotive high points of longer edits. This data-driven shorter edit maximizes the chances of delivering on both performance and branding KPIs when using an online video format. In summary, the results of our experiment followed the peak and rule hypotheses almost exactly, as the memory of each viewing experience was significantly correlated with the level of emotional response recorded. We also know that it is possible to predict the chance of your ad being remembered based on the type of emotion it provokes. Videos which elicit intense feelings of amazement, surprise, hilarity, and happiness will be better equipped for memory than those which fail to produce a meaningful emotional response. The power of narrative was also incredibly apparent. Whilst it is possible to take your viewers on an emotional rollercoaster of a journey, building to a single emotional peak at the end of your video is also an effective way to improve the chances of recall. Whilst it is easy to overlook the branding element and to focus on the enjoyment aspect of video advertising, it is important to ensure that your brand is both present and responsible for the peak moment, to both associate the brand with a positive response and to amplify the awareness. Duration is also important. Whilst longer edits have more time and space for multiple emotional peaks, short edits should focus on building to a standout peak moment at the end. It is possible to do both using a single longer asset though, through the use of content testing and creative editing. Thank you.